Hello, welcome to the Comic Book Club. I am your host, Jamil Payne. And with me today, as always, is dancer extraordinaire, Amanda Comey. How are you doing, Amanda?
Kickball change, tombe pas de bourrée, glissade, grand jeté, and jazz hands. All right, take it from the top. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah?
Okay, sure.
So I need to switch mental gears and be talking about my other hobby?
Yes. Hey, you know what? This wasn't planned, but man, I just want to say I seen what you wrote on Instagram. Thank you very much. I'm grateful for you too.
Yeah. I still got to figure out, you're gonna get some sort of mystery generic date present from me since you got me that Alex Ross book for Christmas. So I'll make it up to you, man.
Man, you know you ain't gotta do. Look, anyway, look, we'll talk about this off here, but you don't have. I'm fine. Trust me, I'm fine. So today we are talking Prophet by Hold on. Before we get there, we are talking Prophet, Image Comics Prophet, the reboot and the old comic, because Amanda hates me.
Yes.
But before we do, Amanda, I'd like to talk to you about certain subjects.
Yes.
In the last couple of weeks, Superman has revealed his identity to the world. Now, we're not going to talk about that comic, but Amanda, I want to ask you, secret identities, do you think they're antiquated in this age?
Okay, so from a practical point of view, I feel like they are, because we now live in a world where superheroes are such a normal thing that it's sort of like the romantic comedy thing where it's like, just tell her and she'll understand, right? Like the secret identity is kind of adding drama superficially. But I think thematically it's still really, really relevant, because like your secret identity now is more like your like Instagram persona or like your Twitter account. So I think the idea of having multiple faces that you show to different people is still like super, super, super relevant, even though from a practical point of view, if I had superpowers, I would just tell people and they'd all be like, oh, okay, like I've seen enough superhero movies. I know how this works. It's not strange or scary. And also, like, you know, with technology, the bad guys are going to be able to figure out your secret identity anyways. I don't know why you would even try. Okay. So like, I think practically they seem stupid now, but that thematically everybody can relate to sort of having to like hide who they really are at work, for example. Gotcha. Like none of my coworkers knew that I was technically qualified to quit and start teaching dance classes. They were like, wait, what? You have alternatives? And I was like, yeah, I do. And that was my secret identity.
But I bet you couldn't shut up about comic books, huh?
Oh, yes. They also all knew that I was into comic books. I was interrupted constantly to provide opinions about all of the movies.
Did you ever get any who would win questions?
I did not.
Oh, you so lucky. You know what? That's a female privilege. Because I'm gonna tell you something. I hate those questions, and as a dude, I get asked those questions all the fuck. I think it might be because you are a female.
I agree. It might be. Well, it also, because I'm not super into like mainstream superhero comics.
Right.
You know, people would come over and they would ask me questions, and you know, I would try to answer them. But most of the time they were questions and the answers would be something like, oh, well, in the comics, sometimes it's like that and sometimes it's not. It depends who's writing it.
You know what?
And that's the sort of answer that makes people go, oh, okay, like there aren't really answers that are going to come from Amanda. Like I shouldn't bother asking her more questions if she's just going to tell me it depends.
So, like I said, at work and other places, I always get called a boring nerd because that's always my answer to them to questions like that too. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I was
But
like,
I mean, it is the real answer, and I'm answering like that because I want people to know that like they can enjoy the movie without caring about what Thor's exact power set is or whether Wonder Woman can fly all the time.
yeah,
Like I'm like, doesn't matter. Like enjoy the movie. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's not.
just depends on who's writing it. Now,
Yeah.
for me, I'm gonna say this. I think
Hmm.
Secret Identities work better for DC than they do Marvel.
Okay.
I think Marvel don't, cause Marvel whole thing is that, like, don't forget now their first superheroes that they ever had never had secret identities, and they just kind of continue, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Everybody knows who the Fantastic Four is. Everybody knows who Captain America is. Like, for a while, for like a decade or so, they tried to hide who Iron Man is, but it just got silly. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like the X-Men never really had a secret identity either. And like the only person that ever really made sense for was Spider Man, cause he was like 15 and he had an elderly aunt, and like his villains would totally use that against him. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And and and,
Yeah.
and like they tried to unmask Spider Man and tried to like bring him with the other heroes. Then they quickly, I think they quickly found out that for him, not having a secret identity doesn't work. Like he needs his secret identity to operate the way he operates with the type of villains he has.
Yeah.
Now with DC, it's it's like this, right? Clark Kent is as big of an opponent to Superman. I mean, Clark Kent is just as big as Superman as far as a component of that of the Kal-El character, right? So if you take away Clark Kent, he's just Superman all the time. And I'm gonna tell you something: Superman is fucking boring when he's just Superman all the damn time. Like, if you do that, he can no longer be a Mountain Man reporter. He can no longer have like a normal family life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think there are some characters, the ones who've generally had secret identities, where it's such a part of the typical stories that you tell that it really is important to the overall character, that duality. I think it's also interesting that Marvel superheroes are somehow like professional superheroes who don't need to make money other ways. Like, like I'm now sitting here and I'm like, okay, like a big part of Spider-Man is Peter Parker needing to figure out how to make rent, and like having a roommate sometimes or having to sell photos of Spider-Man. So, um, like the X-Men all go to boarding school for free, I guess, or I don't know, do some of their parents pay?
No, Professor S is loaded.
Well, he is, but I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm like, they go through Quinjets like tissues. I don't know if he's that loaded. And I just think it's interesting coming up with plausible ways to finance being a superhero.
Well, I think that's why at some point, all superheroes in Marvel has to join the Avengers because I know for a fact the Avengers get paychecks.
Yeah.
My favorite part was when Spider-Man was an Avenger, he couldn't get paid because you had to be on payroll, and since he couldn't reveal his identity, they couldn't give him a check. And I was like, no, no, that's bullshit.
Because they,
Tony,
they need to take out his social security and stuff. They need his social security number, and they need to do taxes and
like I know that joke is supposed to be funny and shit, but like it just frustrates me because like, come on now, y'all can't figure out a way to pay him. Like, there's no way to pay him. Are you serious? There's no way. Tony Stark don't have any type of way to slide Spider-Man some money under the table. Really? I don't know. That just I just thought that was funny, but yeah, it bothered me. But yeah,
Okay, that is hilarious because of all of the moral ambiguity that happens in superhero stories where it's all about like when is it okay to kill and you know I don't know, like paying somebody under the table is like not really like could you imagine like revisiting Civil War but they're fighting about whether or not they have to pay income tax?
Amanda,
Yeah.
I just want to tell you that there's adventures that was bad guys and have murdered people, and somehow that's okay. But paying Spider-Man under the table, nah.
Right. Right, that's what I mean is
I
that's
know,
such
I
a
know.
funny line.
It's just, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But yes, it is funny. Ooh. So yeah, but I just think like since Marvel heroes don't necessarily deal with secret identities as heavy, it's okay for them to not have an identity. But like since like you said, DC is set up in such a way, in a traditional way, that since secret identities has always been there and there's always been about a duality, it's just weird if everybody knew. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It would be weird if everybody knew Bruce Wayne was Batman.
Yes.
And especially in that world, because like I feel like this is gonna sound weird. I feel like the villains in DC are way more dangerous in a weird way. And I can't justify that I can't tell you why I feel that way. But I feel like put it this way, everybody knew who Captain America is, right? But the Red Skull don't come to Captain America's house and try to murder him. Bad Drop the Leaper don't show up outside Captain America's door trying to kick his ass. You know what I'm saying? On a normal basis. I feel like if everybody knew who the fuck Batman was, you wouldn't be able to stop them from trying to kill him at Wayne Manor.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Rose, like for the Flash. If they all knew that he was Barry Allen, maybe they do. I don't think they do. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they'll stop.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if Lex Luthor knew Spider Man? I mean, Superman was Clark Kent. Would you? I just don't. I don't think it works. But like this argument has been made over and over again about secret identities, and I think it's the Marvelification of everything. Of just like, well, since Marvel's so successful, obviously you don't need secret identities because Marvel don't have secret identities. That means nobody should have secret identities, and I don't know if that's us is sound logic.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, Especially for Superman. I mean, I feel like it could be like an interesting what if.
I mean,
Um,
look, he's revealed it, right? But in like a year or two, they're gonna snap their fingers and he'll have his secret identity again, just like they did with Spider Man, just like they do with anybody. They want to revert back to that.
yeah.
Could you imagine if Deathstroke knew, like Dick Grayson was?
Yeah.
Maybe he do. Maybe I ain't giving DC enough credit, but I just feel like DC villains are way more conniving. It just seems like Marvel villains, they just trying to get by. Like, they trying to pay their rent too.
Hmm.
they, they necessarily not there for world domination. Sometimes they just need to pay their rent too. So they go rob a bank.
Yeah.
Okay, so Amanda, I guess we can just go ahead and get into this. Today we are talking profit. Take it away, Amanda.
Speaking of characters who don't care about secret identities, um, John the Prophet, known as Venerable John, was the abbot of the monastery of Murosala and the teacher of Dorotheus of Gaza. He practiced a life of silence and earned the gifts of prophecy and perspicacity, for which he received the designation of prophet. During 18 years up to his death, he was close to. This is the wrong prophet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Image Comics prophet. There we go. Uh, so this refers to multiple ongoing series. First starting in 1993 with Rob Liefeld creating the character and writing on the first series. and doing some of the art, which is something we might talk about. And then starting in 2012, 2013-ish, Brendan Graham and Simon Roy brought the character back for kind of a complete reboot. But this character that Liefeld created was originally a homeless man who, during World War II, volunteered to participate in medical experiments performed by a time-traveling scientist from the future who transformed Prophet into a super soldier. He was then frozen and intended to be brought out of stasis for a future war that the time traveler knew about. He gets unfrozen early and is used as sort of a mindless killing machine. And this is abhorrent to everyone watching and also Prophet himself, because he's also been indoctrinated with something of a religious fascination. So that's kind of the character as he started out. He's very much a Captain America ripoff.
We're not done talking about ripoffs.
Right. It is a very derivative character. And then, I mean, I guess maybe that's enough for us to talk about the Rob Liefeld incarnation. First of all, have you ever actually read a Rob Liefeld book? I think I've read maybe the book where Deadpool showed up, like when he created that character.
I've read some X Factor.
Okay.
But that was a long time ago. I'm rubbing my head right now, man. I'm
right.
sorry.
I think this is the first time I've actually just legit tried to read a trade's worth of Rob Liefeld.
So, man,
I mean, you want to talk about that? Do you want to talk about why we're groaning? Because not everybody necessarily knows who this man is.
Rob Liefeld is one of the most influential comic book creators of all time. He was a famous artist that transitioned into writing in the 90s. But he's terrible at everything he does, writing and art. And this is the type of comic, Amanda, that put me off of reading comics in the 90s when I tried to read comics. Because I thought all this shit looked terrible and I couldn't follow any of it. It all seemed incomprehensible. He's also the creator of Deadpool and Cable, who are two very popular characters. But again, it's one of those things where other people have taken his creations and done way better things with them than he ever could.
Right.
Him and a bunch of other artists, they started Image. And in a weird way, they might be one of the reasons for the downfall of the comic industry in the 90s. In a weird way. Because they had so much power, so much creative power, that Marvel decided that, words didn't matter anymore. Only this art matters. These stories don't. And that kind of... Well, if you know anything about comics, we all know about the comic book crash of the 90s that almost put Marvel out of business.
Yes. I mean, I think what I most associate with that era is just sort of, there was this 90s trend of making everything extreme.
Extreme! I just want to say, if the 30s and 40s the golden era, if the 60s is the 60s and 70s is the silver age, and the 80s is the bronze age, the 90s is definitely the extreme age. I think there's no other name for it but extreme. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's just that the idea of bigger is better and more dramatic and cooler is better. So big hair, big muscles, big guns, big explosions. That is kind of, I mean, that is the embodiment of, or sorry, comics from the 90s are the embodiment of that idea, of that feeling. Just turn everything up to 11. And I feel like I'm imagining that coming out of the 80s and having it be so extreme. I imagine that it started out as being very exciting and very different. And, you know, people reading comics were probably at first like, oh, wow, this is great. Like, this is their comics. Of course, it should be visual storytelling. And I want it to be really bright and colorful. And I wanted to say, interesting about getting these issues is that the back matter is in them, like the letters columns. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to just, if you look at the first page, so creator, writer, layouts, Rob Liefeld. Pencils, inks were not Rob. He did not completely draw this.
No, he didn't.
Dan Panosian. Colors, Brian Talman. But color separations by extreme color.
Oh my God, that was nuts when I read that, by the way.
Which is, they were just starting to do digital art in these books. And so this was like the very first, like they were just starting to do like digital coloring. So like it was just kind of like pushing the envelope. It was also pushing the envelope with like, you know, technology in comic books, essentially coming into the more modern era of how comic books are made and produced. So like I'm imagining that they drew the art and then scanned it and were doing like digital coloring and then using digital files to print some of these things. But yeah, so but just, I'm just imagining you start a new company doing coloring for comic books and you name it Extreme Color is the most 90s thing possible.
I mean, everything about this book is 90s, right? Like, it was the first issue, and you have no idea what's going on. It feels like it's almost pissed up in the middle of a story.
Well, the character was introduced in Youngblood.
Right.
And so this was like a spin-off of like, oh, that character is like so cool and extreme. We're going to do a whole book that's just Prophet. And I don't know, maybe people were at the time like, wow, that character's so cool. I want a whole book with just that one character.
Or maybe Rob Liefeld was part owner of his own comic book company, and he could do whatever the hell he want.
That is also true.
We also say, yeah, he's one of the creators of Images. I don't know if of Image. Him, Todd McFarlane, Jim
and
Lee,
Eric Larson.
And Eric Larson, yes. Like, you know, I've always said this. Like, everybody loves Jim Lee art. I love Jim Lee art. I'm not a particular fan of Jim Lee art back then. Because everybody drew the same. Now, looking back on it, he's clearly better than like Rob Liefeld, right? Like he's clearly better. But like they all had like a similar style. You know what I'm saying? And like
yeah.
And like so like not knowing as a kid when I seen that I was just completely turned off by that look. Then also, man, the coloring was weird in the 90s. I don't know what the fuck they was doing with coloring. Like you look at 80s comics and you look at comics like in the 90s, they were doing some weird stuff with coloring. Like you said, maybe because it was just like the first digital books being printed, but like that, the inking is just weird, man. The coloring on these are just weird.
I think that may also partially be a function of the books that we are reading right now. We're comfortable with contemporary like visuals. Like we look at books now and we understand how to read them and we're familiar with them and they like make sense to us. The books that we're reading from the 80s are the ones that are kind of timeless. Like we haven't read just sort of like generic, shitty, poorly executed comics from 20 or 30 years ago before. This is the first sort of middle bottom of the road comic from a previous era that we've looked at. And so we can kind of see all of the flaws and differences from those periods that make it harder to read. So like, it may not even be so much a like 80s, 90s coloring thing as it is like how do I put this? It's okay. So it's sort of like when you're listening to the radio in the car and you have the oldies station on and you're like, man, music from whatever decade was so much better. And it's like, no, it's because the oldies station is only playing like songs that hit the top 10 from that decade. So you're not listening to like some new single that isn't going to gain any traction. You're just listening to the stuff that made it. So it's like a survivor bias. And I don't think Prophet survived the 90s. It only ran for 20 issues. So it was written so Rob wrote it for a while, and then I think Stephen Platt wrote it for a while in 95, and then it was gone for almost 20 years before they brought it back as a reboot. But I mean, okay, so we're complaining about the visuals, we're complaining about how much it sucks. Were you able to discern any plot from what happened? You said it started out in the middle.
Clearly he's waking up either too early or too late, and he has to reconnect with a satellite to gain his powers?
Yeah, I guess.
And like, that's kind of all I really got.
Yeah. I feel like I also got a little bit of this idea that there are like a lot of extreme superheroes that kind of either work for the government or like contracted to work with the military, and that they kind of want to give John Prophet a job offer he can't refuse.
Right. That seems to be true. There was like, he's the property of the United States, and I'm just like, okay. And like, it's like his girlfriend or somebody shows up in a fucking skin tight.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's a woman who's supposed to be like maybe like a clone of his wife or something. I don't know. And yeah, she shows up in like a skin tight skirt suit, and then she does actually have her own like costume superhero get up at some point. Okay.
So look, this story is indecipherable. Like this is what I'm talking about, right? I read this from issue 1, and I read, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these, and I couldn't make heads or tails of any of this shit.
Yeah.
And like, is it just me? Am I slow? Am I stupid? Why am I not getting this? Why is this type of writing and art style was so popular during this time? I have no clue. Oh, I'm sorry. You see, you get me on a rant.
You get me on a rant. Okay, there's one more thing I want you to rant about for me.
Okay.
Can we talk about his sidekick? Like, what the fuck?
Oh, Jack Kirby?
Right. Sorry, Jackson Kirby.
Jackson Kirby. Just like, I don't know who that is. Like, who is this? And like, he even has the cigar.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Not only that, did you catch that he's like an alien?
What?
Okay, he's an alien, and also he like knew the scientist who made Prophet, so they like knew each other from the 40s. I don't understand at all. I don't understand at all. The power sets are unclear. I don't know what people are capable of. I don't know what they want. I also don't understand if like the government is after you to try and hire you for their superhero program, like, and you're like, no, I have to reconnect with my satellite that you own or else I'm gonna die. Like, Why not tell them? Like, they would have an interest in helping you recharge your satellite
Then like if you
or whatever.
recharge it, then you can break free. Like you.
Yeah, there's so much of this that I don't. I mean, like, it would be charitable to say that there's just context we're missing. Like, there's reasons why he wouldn't trust them, but it's also just plausible that they literally just thought it would be cooler to fight.
But also, like, even if he had reasons not to trust them, wouldn't it even make more sense to use them to your own? Look, Amanda, what I really want to rant about is his name. Can we rant? Can we?
Yeah, do it.
His name is Jonathan Taylor Prophet. Amanda, Amanda, I almost flipped over a table when I read that.
Why? Explain the joke to me.
Explain the joke. Oh, you know why you even? Oh, you're mean, Amanda. Clearly, this man clearly Rob Liefeld watched a lot of Home Improvement.
I mean,
Look,
in
you do
in 1993, Jonathan Taylor Thomas was like the hottest thing
that.
ever.
Look, that's the thing. That's the thing. It couldn't be a coincidence. That's what's so frustrating. Like I know, like it's one thing. It's even he couldn't even think of a good original name. Like everything about this is derivative. And like I don't necessarily mind derivative, but it's bad. And like it's not one original thought is put into this at all. Not one. Don't even get me started on Blood Strike. Oh my god.
um, yeah, I mean, I feel like most of what I mean, I feel like most of what he does in these books is I'm sure that he heard the name Jonathan Taylor Thomas, like in passing, but was maybe not actually like watching Home Improvement or aware of The Lion King about to come out or something. And then,
I think you've
you
been real
know,
charitable there.
well, but then, like he writes it, and if somebody told him, I bet, like I'm just imagining him responding so poorly to people accusing him of like not coming up with original ideas. I don't know. I'm just imagining that he was the sort of guy that if you were an editor, you didn't go to him and say no.
Well, they had a lot of power and they made a lot of look. They are still living off that all that money they made that they swindled
Yeah,
Marvel all of.
yeah.
But yeah, so Blood Strike. Man, I don't even know where to begin. Like, hold on, let me pull up this picture. Hold on. Blood Strike is basically X Factor, the comic that he kind of got famous off of.
hmm
The New Mutants X Factor. So there's Cabot. He just Cable. He's just a color swap Cable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and he helped create Cable. So he should be allowed to make other characters that are just Cable wearing different colors, right?
Uh, they're not even far off from the colors that Cable had. Like when we say we don't, I don't mean similar. I don't mean kinda looks alike. I mean it's just Cable. You have what's her name? Talk. That's just Boom Boom. That's just Boom Boom from New Mutants.
Okay. So
Oh,
clearly,
hold up. And then the one that should cause the fucking lawsuit, Deadlock. Like he's not even trying. Like that's what makes me mad that he's not even trying. He even tried to make him even look a little different, Amanda. It's just Wolverine.
yeah.
And all these goddamn pouches. What the fuck? What? I'm sorry. My mic dropped. Um, this, this,
Settle down. It's okay.
I'm sorry. So Amanda, what do you think of Bloodstrike? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Um, I mean, completely forgettable. They're so derivative that like, yeah, um, lazy.
Do you have a forearm chick who I'm pretty sure just spiraled from X-Men called Foreplay? Get it?
Yep, I get it. It's great.
Foreplay. I'm pretty sure Shogun is just Warrior of Silver Samurai. Look, man, like I told you, Amanda, off air, I cursed you and your husband, and almost canceled the show behind this, because clearly you did this with malice intent to make me read
Okay,
this.
but then you started reading the reboot.
Right.
So in 2012, 2013, Brendan Graham and Simon Roy rebooted this story. And the premise of that volume 1 is, on a distant future Earth changed by time and alien influence, John Prophet awakens from cryosleep. His mission to climb the towers of Thali Van and restart the Earth Empire. So it's the same story, is that John Prophet is unfrozen from cryosleep and he has to go reconnect with his satellite.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, but like it felt completely different. How did you feel about the modern one? Were you just grateful it wasn't?
Yeah. Look, I'm gonna tell you something. I personally have no interest of reading this any further.
Okay.
But it's not bad. But it's one of those things of like, I like my sci-fi more techie. And like, this is like that weird type of sci-fi that's organic in nature, if that makes any sense. Like the concepts are so far out and so alien to me, which is probably on purpose, right? You know what I'm saying? That like, just for my sci-fi taste, I couldn't get jiggy with it. But it's not bad. It's not.
Well, I'm going to say I also didn't want to keep reading after the first volume.
Oh.
But my husband was really into it, and he said, like, oh, like the next time you go to the comic book store, like get more Prophet. And I was like, oh, okay. And when I kept reading, because we had them around, it keeps going and it keeps getting weirder. And like, some of those Bloodstrike characters show up in this in like really, really, really weird ways.
Really?
Like Badrock is just actually a planet.
Huh.
Like it gets weird. There's like this whole like the weird there's weird alien ladies that are this whole like female cyborg, like two-sided. It's just weird. I do agree with you. It is a little bit more on the like, it's so far out there, it doesn't really feel like there's any present day technical analog. Like, it's not techno-babbly. And it's so weird that you can't really understand the rules to kind of expect what's going to happen in the story.
It's something to feel to me that's more interesting than just necessarily good. It's not bad, but I feel like it's more interesting than it is just like something that just I can't put down.
Right. No, I definitely give you that. I just can't believe that somebody read that shit we were just complaining about and then came up with this. I mean, are there? So we're saying it's weird. Do you want to talk about a few elements specifically that were weird to you?
I think the fact that there's just a lot of John Prophets, and like, I think one of my problems with it is just like there's no main protagonist.
Okay.
And like, since they're all different John Prophets, you have to get to know every John Prophet. And like,
no, because the story isn't about John Prophet; it's about the Empire.
It's about the Empire, right? Exactly. And like, but since there's no main character to anchor it, it's hard to like, you know what I'm saying? Like hell, one of the stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
We follow a John Prophet, and he's killed off screen when that story comes back around.
Yep. So, I mean, that's more of a storytelling weirdness than like a world building weirdness.
But
That's just a decision to say that like the story isn't like it's more, I almost want to say it's more Game of Thronesy. Like it's an ensemble cast where the story is about like what happens to Westeros rather than like any particular character.
yeah, but even in Game of Thrones, there's characters you identify with and you root for and you connect with. I don't this. I kind of connected with the first John Prophet because he's the 1st
Mm-hmm.
one I met, but then he just kind of goes away.
Well, he comes back.
Okay, okay.
There are four more volumes of this book.
Well, no, I know. I'm just saying, just from what I've read,
Yeah.
just
Yep.
just from what I'm read, right? Just, and I'm just like,
Okay. Well, right. So what I asked was I was asking about examples of the rebooted John Prophet future that are really, really weird. And you went storytelling without describing the plot element that is weird, which is that this story is kind of based on the premise that the John Prophet from the 90s, who was unfrozen to help fight a war, lost. And that the government did get a hold of him and that he was cloned extensively to create an army that took over the galaxy.
oh, okay.
That is fucking weird. So the idea is that the story is told by these multitudes of clones who, isn't that hilarious, are all just cheap derivations of an original idea. It's kind of a meta story about Image being told as a reboot of an old Image character. But you went straight to the part which makes it an interesting story and not a compelling read, which is, well, now you have a story that's told by an ensemble of characters that are all literally interchangeable and difficult to relate to.
Huh.
So it's a really cool idea, but it's not like a compelling story. I was going to say another example of a story that works like this is Foundation by Isaac Asimov, which is told as an anthology that skips time. And so each chapter is a different period in like the history of the Galactic Empire. So you don't get attached to the characters, but the through line is sort of the history of that world.
Okay.
As opposed to what happens to any specific character. So it's really hard to do a story like that. I'm gonna agree with you. But I was like, what was weird about the world? And you were like, well, I couldn't relate to the characters. And I'm like, but the thing that's weird about the world is that there's millions of the same character running around.
Yeah,
that's the weirdness.
Well, the weirdest thing just about this world is that he's on Earth and there's no humans. There are absolutely no humans. And
yeah.
Like,
what happened?
Yeah, exactly. We don't know. All I know is in the first or second issue, he mates with this with this open vagina with this body vagina. That's
like the vagina chicken lady. I don't know.
Like her face
what
was
the hell?
Like her face was a vagina, but then she had a vagina. Like I don't know what. All I know is my dick shrunk into my body. That's all I know.
Yep.
Like, it was one of them things where I like closed my lids, like, I don't know, that don't look comfortable, or that don't look like that would be pleasurable.
Yep.
And then she take out his reproductive organ.
Yeah, he had something in like that was some sort of like agreed upon exchange. Was that he had something embedded himself that he had to deliver, so they had to mate, and then she harvested that organ and gave him information.
Right, but like, who is she and what is her deal? How is she even related to him and to give him information? Like, did she used to work for the Earth Empire?
I don't know, and it is really interesting. How does this John Prophet even know where to go? He keeps talking about he has like a mission and he can show up and activate these pods that have tools and resources for him to use. It's a very it's almost Batman-ish, where it's like things have been planned. Someone is planning things, but it's a mystery what the plan is or who is in charge.
And it seems to me that maybe they slept a little too long. That's what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is unrecognizable to this John Prophet, or to all of them, honestly.
Yeah.
The one that get killed off screen says he sees humans, but they look different, but they were definitely humans. So like it's been so long that humans have somehow evolved differently in different places. It looks like.
Yeah. Yep. Um, there, I think I wanted to bring up, so there's one issue in the first trade, which is very different art.
Yeah.
Um, and I believe that, that was drawn by Brandon Graham himself.
Okay.
That looks like his style. But it's a story about like a little robot that like can eat things and then grow things. And I guess it's implied that they used to be John Prophet helpers.
Well.
Did you catch that this is supposed to be the sidekick Kirby?
No, I did not. What the hell, man? I did not. Well, okay. No,
Right,
I'm not saying you're wrong.
So it's he's, because the character's name in the 90s version was Jackson Kirby.
Right.
So the two robots here, one of them is Jackson and one of them is Jefferson.
Oh.
So in this rebooted version, instead of having some weird man who's your sidekick and also maybe an alien, so it's implied that some prophets have like these little robot companions who are like super overpowered, by the way, and again have like a weirdly poorly defined power set, and are adorable.
Well, one of them did have like a dead body rolling around inside of it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's, sorry. Not too adorable. But yeah, I'm just like, how do you get there mentally? How do you go, I'm going to right? So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go back and read the original, was because I knew that some percentage of the weird ideas that show up in this reboot were actually based on stupid ideas they had in the 90s, and they ended up getting repurposed.
Well, it also seems, in another piece of meta commentary, like all the stories are written by different people, but they also did the art for their stories for the most part.
Graham is really good about admitting that the writers help him with the stories.
Right.
So he almost always gives co-creator or co-writer credit when he works with other artists.
Right.
And he did, in order to get the story started, he did work with a lot of other artists, but after the first volume, it's primarily Simon Roy that he was working with.
Okay, because like Rob, it seems Rob Liefeld is a writer and a writer artist. I use that term loosely with him, and it seemed like you had a little bit of that in this also. A little bit of a writer artist thing going on. But yeah, man, like you said, like the tools, like even the tools are weird. What the hell is that jelly shit? Like I didn't.
The Dole Mantle thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's sort of like the Kirby thing, like the little robot friend. But it's like alive, but also sort of like technology. And I mean, like the guy loses an arm, and the blue alien thing is like, cool, man, I got you. I'll just pretend to be your arm for the rest of your life. How does that even work? There must be some sort of telepathy going on. Like, what is that thing? It's so weird.
I don't know, man. Like that's what I'm saying. Like this is what I'm saying about like these concepts. these concepts are so far out there. It was almost hard.
It's like extreme in a completely different way.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's just like not what they was smoking because like that's trite. Everybody says that about weird shit. So it's not what they've been smoking, but like what like I feel like it made me feel dumb because I feel like there's some analog for this that I don't know anything about, right? Like I feel like a lot of this stuff there's an analog for it, but it's for something that I have never read and there's just like a gap in my knowledge.
So I definitely get the same feeling, but would I
They take an influence. It feel like they take an influence for something, but I have no idea what their influence is.
well, so I definitely when I read these books, I also have a feeling of like incomplete understanding, but I feel like for me, I interpret that as sympathizing with John Prophet. Is
Ah,
that he doesn't know what's going on either. And so I interpret that as I get to enjoy the feeling of going through an alien environment and not understanding what's happening. But again, that's so risky storytelling wise because when you're telling a story, you want people to, I don't know, understand what's happening. So for me, this hit a really good balance of being a mystery and not just like, a complete incomprehensible mishmash of crap like the 90s version.
so let me ask you a question. Did you get like a small John Carter of Mars vibes from this book?
Absolutely. Also, definitely John Carter. Also, I think in interviews, Graham and Roy said that they were aiming to out Conan the Barbarian.
Mm. And
Like
this John
yeah,
Prophet does look a lot like Conan.
yeah. Um, just really, really going, because like the violence hasn't been toned down at all. It's just different. It's just motivated differently.
Yeah, and like John Carter of Mars, which we've talked. We both like that movie, right? We both like the John
Yeah.
Carter of Mars movie, right? But again, John Carter of Mars is another one of those things where like it's this weird it's this weird mix of sci-fi and fantasy, but in a weird way. It's almost like you could tell they were just they were just still figuring out what the hell sci-fi was going to be. So so you got like these weird things like, oh, he's not really on Mars. His conscience is is just on Mars. And that was like, oh well, that's weird. Like why would he just be on Mars? Why would his like how would he astral project? Like and I feel this way about this book, but times 100.
Yeah.
Like this is weird. Like I'm sure there's like easier ways to tell this story, or simpler ways, or more logical ways. But again, it's not bad. I want to make that clear. It's not bad. But yeah,
I'm just yeah, I'm trying to what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you a little bit of insight into like what I find valuable about the experience of reading the reboot,
I
while
feel like
also admitting that like a lot of your critiques are completely accurate.
you know what, Amanda. You know what we should have did.
What?
We just should wrote two. We just should have read 2 volumes of this and skipped the Rob Liefeld stuff in hindsight.
Okay, but I would never have had an excuse to check that stuff out
Yeah,
any other
yeah,
way,
yeah.
you know?
You're right. And this is an accountability podcast, right?
A little bit. And
Yes.
I think it is really like I am absolutely inspired now to see that it is possible to go from to take a weird seed like Rob Liefeld 1990s Prophet and turn it into something completely different. Like I think that's really, really awesome. I mean, I have a million questions about how it happened, but um, I, knowing how bad the source material was, I am even more impressed and confused with the reboot.
Right, right. So, Amanda, is there anything else you want to particularly talk about with this book? Well, I got one question.
Hmm.
Who was that ultimate John Prophet at the end that they like cut out that monster's stomach?
Uh, I think that's Old Man John Prophet. I think that's supposed to be the dude from the 90s who is
Whoa.
somehow still alive.
But somehow in some monsters, again, just weird shit. Like I don't even know how that works. But
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So, man, is there anything else you'd like to say about this book? You clearly you would recommend it, right?
I would absolutely recommend it. I think it is a really fun experience. I think it is some of the weirdest shit I've ever read.
Okay.
Um, I, I even, my husband and I went to New York City Comic Con, cosplayed as John Prophet clones.
Because there was women John Prophets too, weren't they?
Right. So there were women John Prophets. They actually have like a whole caste system. Like the first John Prophet we meet is like a commander. So he has like privileges and roles and like extra abilities within the empire. Like they were cloning John Prophets for all sorts of uses. So yeah, so we went as John Prophet clones. I had like a dole mantle, like a blue alien thingy. Had a little balloon star skin. I had a whole bunch of like pouches filled with like extra tools and stuff.
Oh, you
Um,
know what? They bring that back too because John Prophet had a lot of pouches. It's just
yes, yes,
his actually did something.
yes. They said, okay, a key component of, John Prophet's character is having a lot of pouches. So, hey man, we're gonna have pouches in this story. We're gonna have tools. We're gonna, you know, embrace that. So yeah, so I do want to say we enjoyed this enough that we dressed up as John Prophet clones. We got recognized by only the very coolest people at that convention, obviously, because it's not a super popular book. Um, but I did get to meet Brendan Graham and Simon Roy and Ed Brisson, who did the lettering and the design, and who also maybe contributed a little more to the story than I thought previously. But and I mean, clearly he doesn't get credit for that in the front page. But I met them all. They were very cool. I got like some sneak peeks at some of the stuff they were working on that wasn't like published yet because they were like, hey, Image Comics sucks. Like they're not going to send you free comics for dressing up, but like, we want to send you something since you're great fans. So it was very cool.
Do you have pictures of this? I need to see pictures.
Yeah, I do have a picture on my Instagram that I can send you of I'll share it too. Or I'll share it again.
Cool. So Amanda, I want to ask you.
Yeah.
For these, you see when I upload these, I usually use a comic cover, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I use one from the new Prophet or do I use one for the old Prophet?
Ooh, I don't know.
Do I want to be funny or do I want people to listen?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a tough call. Maybe you split it 50-50.
I think of something.
You can. How about this? Post it twice and use each cover and see which one wins.
No, I'm not doing that.
You're not doing that. That's twice as much work. Okay.
Yes.
Maybe a Twitter poll.
A Twitter poll. Look, from my 3 listeners, let me stop. I love our listeners. They never say anything back to us, but I know they're out there. I see it. I see them, so I know they're there. But yeah, so Amanda, if they want to talk about us, if they want to talk to us about strange sci-fi concepts, where can they reach us?
Yeah, so we are on Twitter as Comic Book Club 52. They can email us. We are comicbookclub52@gmail.com. And we are the Comic Book Club on Facebook as well.
All right, and Amanda, what are we reading next time?
My understanding is that for Black History Month, we are going to revisit Incognito and take a look at the follow-up volume, which I believe was Renaissance. I am super looking forward to it. I went out and got Renaissance immediately after we read the first one last year, and I'm really looking forward to rereading both of them. I think it's criminal that these aren't movies yet.
I think it is too. I guess that's it. We'll be reading Incognito Renaissance. I do want to say one more thing, and I just speak for myself. We are speaking 7 days after Kobe Bryant died, and I just want to say, as a I don't even play basketball, and Kobe Bryant was one of my heroes. And I think the world lost something special. I think a lot of people are mourning. I know black people are. I know black people are just devastated. But it goes beyond that. Like they've had Kobe tributes even in Germany. But Kobe was something special. He was my Jordan. And I cry, and I usually don't even cry for celebrities. And like Kobe, because you just felt like Kobe was gonna be here forever. And I just want to say, he'll be missed. His 13-year-old daughter will definitely be missed. He has a wife and they have 3 more girls, and just they'll be fine financially. What I'm saying, but like people being mean, I just want to say you'll be fine financially, but that type of devastation you never really get over. And just pray for their good health, pray for their good mental health in this time of need. And I just speaking for me. I don't know how Amanda feel, but I'm just speaking for me.
I mean, that was really sweet. you're a very good person, Jamil. I mean, I'm not a basketball fan. Kobe wasn't anyone special to me, but it is incredibly tragic to die that young and also to lose children.
And to that whole family, it was more than one. It was like 3 different families on that.
Yeah,
plane.
exactly.
So like a lot of the people lost. Like it just. And again, you don't have to be a basketball fan, and Kobe was special. Like, you know what I'm saying? Again, Kobe was like Jordan in a lot. Kobe, like LeBron James, like Jordan. Kobe was just that name that was even known outside of basketball.
Yeah, exactly. I knew who he was, and imagine him being. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was enough of a personality for anyone to know who he was, even outside of basketball.
Yeah. So I just want to say, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. Your legacy will live on, and everybody just hug your family members, because you never know when it might be your last time. Make sure you say you love them. And with that, I'm Jamil Payne.
I'm Amanda Comey.
And we are out.